bosses. Smash kinda has a couple of them. They're kinda interesting, maybe a little bit samey all over the place. I think most of us can agree that despite some great attempts, Smash could definitely improve in the area of the boss fight. So just for a bit of fun today, I thought I would go through every single Smash franchise and assign it a boss and speak very briefly on what this boss could bring to the table. Focusing on how not only Smash could represent more franchises with its boss fights, but also how these fights can be unique and unlike anything Smash has offered us before. For this video, I will be omitting any franchise that already has a boss present in Ultimate, as well as omitting some franchises that I just do not care to think up a boss for right now. That gives us 21 franchises to rapid fire through and assign a boss. And be sure to give me your list of the bosses you would assign to these franchises down below, because I am sure there are tons of great ideas that I neglected to include here. Sound good? Let's jump in. First franchise up is Donkey Kong, and while my nostalgia would love to give it to Neki or Eric, we have an inexcusable lack of Donkey Kong Country 4 and 5 content, so for that reason I would like to nominate Lord Frederick. I think many, myself included, would say that he was a bit of an underwhelming final boss in Tropical Freeze. While that might be true, that does not change the fact that Lord Frederick is a Viking walrus that shoots ice dragons out of a saxophone. I'm not even gonna bother asking, you cannot come up with a more epicer character design than that. It's simply not possible. For Metroid, I feel like the next obvious boss to go with is Kraid. Towering over any of the franchise bosses the series has had so far, having to climb up and smack him in the head just like in Super Metroid would be a great way to represent the size and scale of this enemy with a unique type of fight not yet seen in Smash. If it bugs you that he's already a stage hazard, then my next choice would be Crocomire trying to force you into a pool of lava. Yes, I do have a bit of a Super Metroid bias, I love that game. Next up is Pokemon, and I nominate Rayquaza because Brawl. I just really liked his fight in Brawl. I thought the sound design was incredible. I'd just love to have that back. But, well, I'm not going to look up their names right now. A tag team of the Sword and Shield dogs fighting and playing off each other would be cool too. One boss focusing purely on offense, the other on defense. It's a dynamic we haven't really seen before, and the only other tag team boss fight I can think of is Master Hand and Crazy Hand, which kinda can feel like just fighting two Master Hands. Moving on to Earthbound, I nominate Porky because Brawl. I just really liked the boss fights in Brawl that were actually based on characters from games. I'm nostalgic, man. I want them back. Gygus could be cool too if you could pull him off. I don't have a super clean idea of how to pull off such a visually unknown enemy and attacks that you can't even begin to comprehend. But he's one of my favorite villains in all of gaming. If you could pull off a boss fight with him and make it feel authentic, you might have my favorite one in the game right there. Fire Emblem's weird, we're gonna have to talk about this one a bit. Like with a lot of Fire Emblem representation, I would assume they'd want to go with the most recent game for their boss. The most recent game right now is Three Houses, and that's kinda tough to talk about. I will be talking spoilers about Fire Emblem Three Houses, so if you haven't played it, I highly encourage you to skip to the time code on the screen right now to avoid spoilers for this game. I'll give you a second here. We good? Okay. The best enemies to pull from in this game would be the final bosses, but each of the three routes has a different final boss. The most quote-unquote Smash Bros-like boss would probably be the Immaculate One, but that gets a little tricky. Technically, the Immaculate One isn't really someone you want to kill, you just kinda have to. Unless you play the secret route where you're playing as the bad guy and then you want to kill the Immaculate One, but that's because you're being a jerk on purpose, so. Maybe this is just me, but I feel like if you're going to mercilessly smack the crap out of someone in Smash Bros, it has to be someone that you have absolutely no problems with killing. I'd feel weird having to kill Rhea over and over again with 70 plus characters. Now, in my opinion, the best final boss in terms of story and lore and a satisfying ending to Three Houses would be Nemesis. But he's kinda just an evil king with a cool sword. There's not really that much to play off of to make a cool Smash fight. Maybe he runs around and tries to kill you and you can't actually damage him until you take out the 10 elites, but still that feels like too much of a normal Smash fight to me with not enough novelty to make it worth it. Which is why I'm going to propose my favorite final boss in the game from an art style, design, and gameplay perspective, Hegemon Husk Edelgard. I hope I pronounced that right. Not only is this design for Edelgard truly awesome and terrifying, not only do I have no problem smacking Edelgard over and over and over and over and over again, but she fits the mold of Smash pretty well. She's giant, she tosses projectiles at you, and this is technically a way to get one of the house leaders into Ultimate like a lot of people want, without making them the playable character, as that's logically gonna go to Byleth. And just for the sake of covering my bases, if they're gonna go with a more classic Fire Emblem boss, I just googled who the final boss of Fire Emblem 1 was. Meduse? I don't know, he's a dragon guy, he probably works right. I've talked about Fire Emblem too much. Kid Icarus. Now, naturally, I want to nominate Hades for this, and that is what I'm going to do. But I am aware that Hades isn't nearly as cool in Japan as he is in other territories, so maybe Medusa would be more universally appealing, but Hades is just too awesome. If we can get that same writing in a boss fight in Smash where he's just completely taunting you and being a wordsmith the entire time, that would be too good to pass up. I can't nominate anyone else. For Metal Gear Solid, I would love to get an adaptation of the Psycho Mantis boss fight, and actually doing cool stuff to mess with the player, not just normal spear pillar, reversing your controls, turning the stage upside down. For Psycho Mantis, do things like desync the controller, go back to the home menu, pause the game, switch which player is controlling which character. This might be too hard for Smash to load in a boss fight, but if you could change the character anyone's playing as, that would be cool. I think it'd be really fun. If this would be too complicated to program, then I would nominate Metal Gear Rex. I think keeping it to MGS1 is kind of the theme they're going with. Rex is a more traditional Smash boss like Gallium. Rex is absolutely iconic, already a part of the Shadow Moses stage, and I would love if the fight goes on too long and you can't take out Rex in time. He just shoots a nuke from his railgun at you and you die instantly. I think that'd be funny. There are some cool Sonic bosses you could pull. I would love to see Chaos. It'd be hilarious to get one of the super edgy guys like Infinite or Solaris in here. But how are you not gonna go with Eggman? It's Eggman. Put him in any of his egg contraptions over the years. It doesn't matter. He is definitely up there with Bowser as one of gaming's most iconic villains. Choosing to use someone else over him just feels wrong to me. I debated with Pikmin between either the final boss of Pikmin 1 and 3, but I ended up going with the Plasm Wraith from Pikmin 3, because his gameplay would be a lot more unique. Having to beat him up until he bursts into all of his bubbles, then having to smack all of his bubbles individually until he eventually reforms slightly smaller based on how much you destroyed, certainly unlike any boss fight we've had so far. And I remember this guy being an absolute jerk to take down. He really stood out as being memorable to me. For Animal Crossing, I tried to come up with some neat ideas for like Crazy Red and having to identify accurate artwork to take him down or something like that. But similar to what I was saying with Fire Emblem, I feel like a Smash boss has to be someone that you do not feel bad about taking down. And there's really no one in Animal Crossing that I'm cool with smacking over and over until they fall over dead. I'm sorry, does that make me soft? For Mega Man, however, I'd like to go with Bass with his treble boost adapter. Make it fight like a classic Mega Man boss. Trapped in a square room, he's flying all over the map, shooting out different attacks, and maybe give him some moves from some playable characters in the game, to sort of insinuate that he's already defeated them and has copied their abilities. So for Punch-Out, I was originally going to go with Mr. Sandman, but I ended up going with King Hippo. I think with any Punch-Out boss, to make it feel like classic Punch-Out, their attacks should be incredibly fast and powerful, but once you fought for a little bit, you really start to see the pattern. And at that point, it's all about whiff punishing the king so you can knock him in the mouth and hit him as hard as you can right in the belly, eventually pushing him over the side of the stage, where he just falls to the bottom with absolutely no ability to recover. And for Xenoblade, I originally went with Malos, inside his mech thing that he has, I forget what it's called. But I think he kind of fulfills the same role that Metalface does on the Gower Plain stage. So instead, I actually went with the Territorial Rotbar. You might remember him as that level 80 gorilla boss that you accidentally aggroed all the time while you were just trying to pick up some flowers in the starting area. I think this guy is certainly memorable to most people that have played Xenoblade. Heck, why constrain him to just a boss arena? Have him just charge through during random matches for no reason. You're just randomly doing home run contests trying to beat your score. All of a sudden he gets aggro, jumps in out of nowhere and one-shots you. You're just perusing your spirit collection, all of a sudden Rotbar jumps out of your TV, smashes your Switch and runs away. It'd be a great homage to the experience of fighting him in the actual game. Moving on to Final Fantasy, it's gotta be Sephiroth, right? I mean, come on, replicating that battle with that music? I mean, I'm not gonna say it, because we got the remake coming up, I'm not gonna spoil it for anyone. But come on, it's gotta be Sephiroth. Now for Street Fighter, I said Akuma, and I actually think it'd be cool if he did fight like a more traditional Smash fight. He's just a souped up Ryu with incredible frame data and attack and defense. And of course he fights like Akuma, his Hados and Tatsus don't destroy his air momentum, or whatever those things are called for Akuma. In fact, I'd like him to be playable because I think those different physics would be a lot more fun to mess with in Smash, but I think a Street Fighter boss that acts like a straight up Smash fight is very fitting for the series that it comes from. For Bayonetta, take Jubileus and make it as crazy as the fight in Bayo 1. The biggest boss fight in the game, hopping between planetoids to smack it wherever you can. Do not hold back on it. Yeah, they'd probably go with something from Bayo 2 or 3 because those are the Nintendo exclusives, but I've only played one, so Splatoon. Another final boss here, DJ Octavio. It just makes so much sense to use him and his mechanic from the first Splatoon game, where he's invincible until he launches both of his fists at you and you have to launch them back at him to make him vulnerable. It's a simple pick, but it just works too well, you gotta do it. Now we are on to Persona 5, and I'm going to issue another spoiler warning here. I'm going to be talking about a lot of gigantic spoilers for this game. Please, if you have not played Persona 5, skip ahead to the time code I've given you. If you have any intention on ever playing it, please ignore this part of the video. Okay? Okay. There's actually a number of bosses that made sense that I went back and forth on. I considered Akechi, Shido, and Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth? I don't know how to say it. While these are probably the biggest and baddest bosses in the game, all of them are way too spoilery to be included in Smash. I'm honestly not a fan that Rivers in the Desert plays when you fight the Akechi spirit. My next choice was Kamoshida, obviously in his shadow form. This is probably the most recognizable boss, at least to people that haven't played the game yet, and Kamoshida is my personal favorite villain character in the game. But the problem is, as you can see, one of his main mechanics is slurping up that teen girl booty to heal himself up. Not exactly something I'd put in an E10 rated game. Sure, they could censor it, but I'm not sure I'd want them to. It is weird, but I kind of think that's like a defining part of his character. It kind of takes away from it being Kamoshida if he doesn't do that. Am I weird for saying that? I'm definitely weird for saying that, but that's how I feel. I ain't gonna lie to you. So ultimately, I didn't go with any story character. I actually think the Reaper would be the best boss from Persona 5. Still iconic, insanely difficult, could fit the Smash style really easily. Now, from perhaps the most in-depth section of the video, we move on to Dragon Quest XI. I don't know, a dragon or something? I'm like half an hour into 11, I'll get back to you on this one. There's like a giant slime in there, right? That could be fun. For Banjo-Kazooie, although I hate how many times I'm picking final bosses here, I think you have to go with Gruntilda just because people were pretty upset that her music wasn't there to begin with. This could rectify that, right? I may not be a fan of Banjo-Kazooie, but I know that fans of this game will never tire of getting more Gruntilda in Ultimate. Now, the final franchise, at least that we know about at the recording of this video, for Fatal Fury, it's gotta be Geese, right? Same philosophy as Akuma. It's just a straight-up boss fight, but he's an incredibly powerful enemy that fights just like he does in Fatal Fury. However, when you do beat him, he gets put in an infinite stun state, and the fight doesn't actually end until you throw him off the building. Simple enough way to end off the video. Except, hey, quick little bonus round here. Taboo! Of all the unique bosses that Smash has had over the years that isn't in Ultimate yet, Taboo is easily my favorite. I'd just really like to see him again. I actually really like his design. I think his sound design is also incredible. The whole aesthetic and music of Subspace was an incredible location for the final showdown with him. Am I just being overly nostalgic for Brawl? Most certainly. But regardless of all the final bosses we've gotten throughout Smash, Taboo is still my favorite, and I would love to go against him in Subspace all over again in HD. But hey, I think that pretty much covers it, right? Like I said, please let me know any ideas for bosses you have down in the comments, or just thoughts you had on my list here in general. There is so much potential that Smash has yet to unlock with boss fights, and until they fully realize the potential, I would love to keep talking about the possibilities with all of you. Thanks for sticking with me here. You have a good day, and I hope I see you again soon. Please bring back Metal Mario as a mini-boss.